All right, I'm not sure if it's a good thing to start corporatizing relationships. So, is it corporatizing relationships if you now are starting having these kind of terms that are incorporated in, the relationship? Strategic planning. Baby, it's time for a strategic planning. Hey, come meet me in the house boardroom, right? Maybe some people think that's a bit too formal, or it's not so good for a relationship, but experts are saying strategic planning simply means intentionally deciding where you are going together and how you will get there, whether it's a business, but people are saying you can do the same in a relationship. It's about moving from reacting to life's demands to deliberately shaping a shared future. We talked to Thuto Lephoto, executive life and relationship coach, about strategic planning and goal setting for couples. Thank you, Thuto. Welcome on the show.
Hi, Benjamin. Morning. Yeah, morning to the listeners. Thank you so much for having me.
Dude, aren't we trying to get away from the workplace when you get home? Oh, strategic planning at home.
It's not something heavy. It's just the word strategic, intentional. It's us being intentional, looking deep to what really do we want, as a family or as a couple. So it's not something that is, which is a taboo, should be taken as a taboo.
That's interesting that you say that. So speak a little bit about it. Explain this term that you say is not so heavy.
Look, we need to understand, and this is what I normally come across when we try to revive people's relationships in our coaching sessions to say, you know, people get to a point or in time in the relationship where they sort of slack back and sometimes they lose touch of why they really started, the relationship, why they wanted to be together. We had intentions in the beginning. We had goals in the beginning. We had dreams in the beginning as individual people, and we decided to come together. And that should not be lost. By the time it gets lost in many relationships because of so many issues, so many challenges, and all the type of seasons that we come across and encounter, things we encounter in life, that sometimes we lose touch with the reason and the intention that we had in the beginning. And so strategic planning comes to revive that in a relationship to say, let's go back and remember why we are together. Let's go back and remember and remind ourselves what we aspire for, what we aspired for in the beginning. Where are we with that? Are we getting closer to it? Are we standing still? No movement is happening. What can we do if we're standing still, to make sure that those aspirations are revived and we're able to move swiftly forward closer to them?
Tuto, I've been seeing this trending on my own social media feed. In fact, it started like 2 years ago, I think, with a specific couple. And then last year in December, I started seeing so many couples coming onto social media and showing us their strategic planning dates. They made it fun. Some of them went out for a little staycation, a little getaway to do it. But in relationships in general, especially long-term relationships or even marriages, there's more than just love and union, but there's a lot of moving parts, right? The goals that we want to achieve as individuals, the goals that we want to achieve together. What are some of the benefits of actually coming together and deciding to strategically plan your year, perhaps your next 5 years, your decade as a couple?
The key word is alignment. See, when we are in a relationship, one of the things that we don't want to experience and to go through in a relationship is conflict. So if there is no clear intentions between the two people, there is bound to be some conflict one way or the other. Because as much as we can be in a relationship, we are two individual people with two individual different dreams, different aspirations, different visions, different outlooks towards life. And we need to appreciate and comprehend that, of each individual. So it is very important. The benefit is alignment. Now, I want you to picture this. I know most of us have cars. Have you ever noticed when your car is out of alignment? The steering wheel is facing the other direction, but the tires, the wheels are also going the other direction.
Yeah.
So when we really don't take cognizance of how important it is to have strategic planning sessions in a relationship as couples, we would, expose ourselves to a situation where we are misaligned. You would find that as much as I am here in this marriage, in this relationship, I want the best in this relationship. but I'm still an individual person with individual dreams, individual goals. And if those dreams and goals are not noticed or are not, recognized, I get frustrated, and I will then start to misalign myself from this because the frustration of achieving my personal endeavors
Yeah.
is mounting up. So it's important to have those strategic sessions to make sure that we are aligned. One must acknowledge the aspirations of the other and find common ground of how we can work better together in a relationship while we both grow the way that we want to grow.
Well, let's keep comparing this to a business, right? In a business setup, usually there's a CEO, there's a COO, so there's a hierarchy on decision making. So when you use the word strategic planning, many couples may kind of say, okay, let's assume roles in this one. How do you deal with that? Who makes the decision of what, where, and how?
It's very straight to the point, Benjamin. We all know, you see, this is one of the things I also encourage a lot of people in relationships. You need to invest time in understanding and knowing the capabilities of your partner, knowing their weaknesses. Because where they are weak, then that's where you need to chip in and support them so that you can both be able to succeed at that particular point. So it's important that people understand each other, they get to know each other. So when it comes to strategic things or strategic planning in a relationship, it does not necessarily have to take the structure or the form of the corporate setting, but it has to be, a platform where both people are able to say, I'm good at taking decisions. Like, for instance, I know myself that I'm a very strong risk taker. My wife is very reserved. So I know that when it comes to managing things and putting things in perspective and being that she is best because I'm a risk taker, I'm spontaneous, I'm the go-getter type of a guy. She's not. So when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to then strategically positioning ourselves in a relationship, we need to consider things like that. We need to consider each other's character, each other's strengths, each other's, limitation, so that we can be able to build a system that works for the both of us, that you are deployed according to your strength. Where you are weaker or where you are limited, then I can be able to chip in, I can deploy myself together with you so that we also succeed in spaces like that.
I want to speak about the alignment of planning the strategic meeting, right? Because, in a sense where one is coming back from a long day at work and then their partner says, hey, we have a strategic meeting, come to the boardroom. It might bring tension. It sounds like something that's quite tense, right? No, I am so tired. How do you guys find alignment even before the strategic meeting? Alignment on why you're doing this, how it's going to be done, that it's not one person's idea, over another's, and that you guys find a way to also make it fun, enthusiastic for both of you, and perhaps even romantic, because, fun and good times are had when you're able to speak about serious things, but still engage intimately as partners.
It's very important. It starts with, I think we touched on when we spoke about one of the subjects and the topics we spoke about previously, the importance of communication, a very clear and healthy line of communication in a relationship. That's the basis for it. Because then if our communication, network between or amongst ourselves, between ourselves is so strong, it's easy for us to communicate and talk about these things, not necessarily in a formal platform, but we can be able to throw bones around, about these ideas that we have until we reach to one that we feel we need to do that. So it does not necessarily have to take a formal stance, because then at times when it takes a formal stance, a lot of partners, they get bored. One will be like, every time we have to do this, now we have to have a sit down, it's a meeting. It doesn't necessarily have to be formal, but it has to be something that can be communicated between the two of you in the most convenient way and in the most flexible way for the both of you. We're not the same in character. One does not, I mean, there are people who hate meetings, naturally. You'll find that your partner just hates meetings,
Yeah.
but you can communicate to them in a much more flexible way than sitting them down. For instance, there are times where I was saying to my wife not so long ago, I said to her, the way that we are so busy, I'm so busy. I said to her, something is happening to us. And she thought it was something very serious. She said to me, what do you mean something? I said, when was the last time we took our time away? and we left the kids, not even going away, just go and let's just go out for a day and do this. And she's like, yeah, it's been a while. I didn't have to sit her down to say that. I said that randomly. We were busy with something here in the house, and I just threw it at her, and she's
Yeah.
like, yeah, we need to do that. So I'm trying to say people need to find the most flexible ways for themselves that work for them to communicate. Communication is key for that.
All right, Thuto, we're going to take a break. Stay on the line. We're speaking about strategic planning in relationships, romantic relationships at that, and we'll continue this after the break.
Conversations are happening, and Channel Africa is at the heart of them. We tell the African story with clarity, pride, and purpose, reaching audiences that matter to your brand. Partner with us and connect your business with listeners across borders in multiple languages and markets. For partnership opportunities, sponsorship, or sales, email us at partnership@channelafrica.co.za. Channel Africa, the African perspective. Step into the heart of the day on the move with Palisa and Benjamin.
We're having a conversation about strategic planning in your relationship. And joining us on this one is Thuto Lephoto, who is an executive life and relationship coach. How do you strategically plan, your relationship, perhaps for the year, for the next 5 or whatever timeline you guys want to set? Thuto, I did say that I've been seeing this happening a lot on social media, right? And what I see is that, the couples go, they get in the boardroom, they have their pens, their papers ready. Some of them even have like a chalkboard or, a whiteboard to write their stuff on and bounce ideas off. But then once they start writing, they switch off the camera. So we don't actually see what they're talking about there. Now there's a couple listening to this that says, this might be a good idea for us. We haven't done anything like this. And we've been speaking about being more intentional in our relationship. What goes on in there? How do we start planning this strategic session? And what are some of the categories or, genres and themes that we look at during the session?
Very important. It's just about one question. Where do we see ourselves as individual people within a relationship? Because it's important to start there. Not only where you see yourself as a couple, but where do you see yourself as individual people, as a couple? So asking questions like, what are your aspirations this year? What are the things that you would want to achieve in your personal capacity? Asking your partner that, it gives you a picture, so that whatever picture that they paint for you, you can be able to then match with the picture that you have about yourself. Then those two pictures are aligned for the common goal of this relationship, of the couple. So it starts there, identifying each person's aspirations and their desires to achieve in that particular year. Plan that. What do you plan? Academically, financially, where do you see yourself? Career-wise, where do you want to see yourself? And then we move it to us as a couple. As a couple, we have a home or we are in a relationship. We are planning to get married. When do we want to get married? What do we need to do that? How do we raise the money? How do we plan? So you just have different conversations, but your conversations must begin by identifying each individual's aspirations and matching and aligning them into the couple, the relationship, the platform that then will transport us to the destiny and aspiration that we want.
The more you're speaking about this, I kind of like it, and it makes me think about a term, crisis management. Crisis management doesn't just happen when a crisis is there. Usually you plan for it, you create a structure that would actually be in place when the crisis actually happens. And this is wonderful because what happens in life is that life is very unpredictable, and usually we just go with the flow with things, right? And we'd never think, okay, there's something that can actually happen that could actually make the couple a little bit unsettled, that can make me and you, if we're in a relationship, unfocused on the relationship in itself. However, you're speaking about something that can actually make us walk into environments that are uncomfortable in ways that we are ready for. I don't know if that makes sense to do.
It does make sense. It really does make sense. So one of the things that I'm glad that you touched on it. One of the aspects that I work on when I work with relationships and couple. It's what I call scenario planning. I have a course, it's a full course. Even in the corporate, I offer that course. It's called scenario planning. Because in a relationship, we can plan strategically. This is what we want, and this financially, academically, in all other aspects of our life. But we need to understand that in our planning, we always have to have that mark of scenario planning, that particular rainy day. I always even tell couples to say, when you do your planning, you must also consider with each and every plan, whether academically, what if, I always use that question, what if, in the case that what we are planning for might not materialize, how would we feel? What are we going to do? How bad will it be? If it becomes too bad, what would we do? How are we going to do it? Because then you are preparing yourself mentally and emotionally to say, in case it happens, anticipation was there. And that anticipation is not to say you are planning to fail, but it's you being realistic enough to say, as much as I can be pursuing this or we can be pursuing this in a relationship, but there is an opportunity or a chance that it might not happen the way that we want it to happen. So that is a very critical element in strategic planning where you have an aspect of scenario planning. You consider questions and question yourself and question your partner. In case financially we could not reach this level, what if then we face one, two, three? What would we do? How would we feel? How would we salvage that? If you bounce those questions, you are getting yourselves ready. You are opening yourselves to anything that could happen so that it doesn't take you by surprise, as you said, Benjamin, because many times we get taken by surprise and we start then running around like headless chicken, not knowing what to do. And
Yeah.
that's where we lose most of ourselves in that process.
Tuto, just because you guys are there, doing your strategic planning, it doesn't mean that everything that you guys want for yourselves and for each other is going to be aligned. So when you're having this meeting and you realize or you notice there's a little bit of misalignment in the things that you want, perhaps for that year, whatever time frame you guys are set, how do you fix misalignment or how do you work around misalignments during this planning?
We need to understand this one critical aspect. In relationship coaching, we always emphasize this. People must understand that relationship is about compromise. Immediately you decide to enter into a relationship, in your mind, there's got to be an aspect that activates to say, I'm entering into a space where I am required to compromise. So when you enter into a relationship, you must be conscious of that. What do I mean by that? I mean then in cases where, as you are saying, Palisa, in cases where you realize that there is misalignment, that's where then your compromise or the aspect of compromising needs to activate to say, okay, it's fine. We are misaligned in this particular way. Discuss it. We don't see eye to eye on this. How can we both compromise so that at least a particular degree of this particular aspect can be achieved? What can you compromise so that this can be achieved? What can I let go so that you can achieve that which you want to? Because you'd find, for instance, let's make a very quick example. You might find that in your strategic planning, there is amongst the two of you, one or two of you wants to start a business, but the money to start a business is not there. You need to support each other to get that money to start that particular side hustle. So it has to come to a point where one says, what can we do to ensure that your hustle can be activated as much as mine can be activated? If that hustle of yours wanted 50,000,
Yeah.
can you compromise that instead we give 20,000 to you and my hustle also gets 20,000? So we split the money. So that's where it is critically important. Enter with the mindset of understanding that you will be required to compromise so that there can be progress, there can be efficiency, you can be able to move forward productively.
Well, Thuto, we've run out of time, but just in 30 seconds, I also just hear people now just moving into this kind of a thing, and then they forget to be spontaneous and to go with the flow in a relationship. That's kind of also a nice thing to have in a relationship. Any warnings there that don't make the strategic planning everything about your relationship? When to kiss, when to touch, when to go out?
Strategic planning has nothing to do when you have intimacy, when you have fun. Continue to have fun. But strategic planning is ensuring that the critical pillars that make the relationship stand are in place and are taken care of the way they should. The rest of the other aspects of the relationship must come randomly. No timetable for kissing your wife or your husband or your partner. No timetable for going out. Go out and enjoy each other and just be merry. That's all.
Thuto, where do you get hold of you?
Thuto is there on TikTok, Thuto Speaks, Facebook, Thuto Speaks. On LinkedIn, it's Thuto Lephoto.
All right, man, you've changed my mind on this one. Thank you for joining us and thank you for being with us here on Channel Africa. That's Thuto Lephoto, Executive Life and Relationship Coach, helping us on that conversation. It takes us to 9:30 Central African Time. Let's get our sports.